What is good, y'all? This is Robert, and thank you so much for tuning into the show. And yeah, today we have a superstar in the corner, as you can already see here. We have Mr. Heath Martin that is joining us, and I'm just wondering, how has it taken this long to actually get you on the show?
Scheduling is usually my go-to excuse. We've been
Yeah.
we've been talking for a minute about it, but yeah, everything has been kind of hectic to say the least in the world and in the booth. So I'm glad we got a chance to get together.
Yep, anytime, man. And thank you so much for joining me today. It's just kind of been one of those cases where, like you said, scheduling, but you know what? We made it work.
That's
That was
right.
happening.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, many times. So I guess to start this out, like I guess just share a little bit about, your 2025 because I know really going you've just been really going places, man. So how would you say that your year is going so far?
Well, 2025 is interesting for a lot of reasons.
Yeah.
The world is crazy right now, so I bury myself in the work a little bit just because I'm pretty empathetic. So when I watch the news or I see what people are going through, I kind of get depressed or sad or upset. So
Yeah.
I try not to pay attention to it too much. Although it's always there, so there's a constant reminder. But 2025 for
Mhm.
me professionally has been great. Um, it started off with a bang. I think right out of the gate we were doing the what was it, the Panda Express Hot Ones commercials, and then it was where did we came from Burger King to Panda Express, and then video games started kind of blowing up with when we started getting a lot of the companies to sign the interim agreements about the AI usage and not stealing our voices. And some of the games have been are still struck, so we don't touch those. But there's a lot of them that have started signing the interim agreement for we're trying to get legislation for AI and security and promises and contractual things that we can put in so that we can protect our voices. It's our livelihood. So I basically just kind of listen to my agents and feel the waters and see who's doing what, and then do the work accordingly.
Yeah, it's really a good thing that we're still kind of like negotiating all the AI mumbo jumbo that's just been going around and I'm sorry, my voice is kind of shot, but it's just really pretty much is one of those cases where you really want to protect yourself and really want to protect your fellow actors that are also doing this because it is a big deal and it is kind of is a force to be reckoned with. But I always say you just can't replace an actual human,
Yeah,
not
I
by a
agree.
long shot.
I agree.
Yeah.
There's AI is getting better, so don't make any mistake about it and think that they can't continue to get better. But there is something that goes to be said for human emotion and human just the artistry that we bring to it. So I think that AI has its purpose and has its uses, right? But I mean, help in the medical field, help in science, help figure out how to get to somewhere we haven't visited yet in outer space. I don't care what it is, just leave art alone. You know what I mean? So
Exactly.
it's a battle, but I think the feeling is that we're all unified in our fight against it, and we're starting to make a little headway, so that's positive.
Yeah. I mean, it's just like I said, you just can't really replace an actual human. And it, I know that somebody also made a post like this on social media recently where there was one project that ended up going for AI, but a lot of us made really good points of like, um, you can have us voice act in your project, like it saves a lot of, you could kind of get a better product, or if you really want to save time and money, don't have any voice acting in it. Just some alternatives that people were talking about. Like, I
Yeah.
can't really speak for everybody, but yeah, I can safely say right now you could probably get a better product. I'm just saying. Yeah, from my
Yeah,
perspective.
if
Yeah.
they don't want to, if their budget doesn't account for
Yeah.
voiceover, then they should just go without voiceover, which is something that movie trailers have done and promo has done a lot of over this last couple years. They went from heavy voiceover trailer promos to just showing clips of the film. So, I mean, there's still some of that work out there, but it is much harder to get your hands on that nowadays than it was 15 years ago.
Certainly. Yeah. So I guess with all this AI talk out of the way, what is something that has been really, because I know you've been doing a lot of voice acting, but what is something else that you've kind of been also dabbling into as of late?
Lately I've been doing an on-camera role, which has been a lot of fun. So that I do a little. I'm working on a play. I'm working on
Ah,
music. So
nice.
I've always got like multiple things in the fire. You know.
Yeah, that's so cool. Congrats.
Thank you. It's also been cool because I was asked recently by Seattle Voice Academy to teach a video game class for their for their just kind of
Nice.
up and coming students, and that was a blast, dude. That we just got done doing that, so hopefully we'll have another one here pretty soon, and I'll keep rotating that into the mix.
Yeah, well, the possibilities are endless.
Yeah, that's kind of the plan. Like I never was like, "Ooh, I'm going to do this one thing," right? At first, I was like, okay, well, I want to do video games. I want to do animation. I think my voice is probably right for promo. So I kind of was thinking about that. And I wasn't thinking about commercial very much. But then as I started training and realizing that commercial is the bread and butter of our business, then I started to find things about commercial that I liked, things that I enjoyed. So I started getting better at that and developing that craft. But I'm never one for like I do this one thing and this is what I do. No, I think that we have to diversify so that when one thing is down, another thing is up, and so on and so forth. Like if I have downtime now, I have to fill it with other stuff, other projects, things that I'm trying to create, things that I'm trying to get off the ground, or things that I'm working on with friends or whatever um, in the downtime because we don't always have downtime. And then when it gets busy, then that's when you go, okay, and you start grinding again. But when it's kind of like things are in flux or if things are a little slow, I'm either training or working on a different project. I got to stay busy. I got to stay artistic.
Yeah, bingo. That's the number one thing that I keep saying in a lot of different other episodes, but if we're not acting, we're kind of doing other stuff, whether it's training, teaching, anything that keeps our mind and body just
Yeah,
keeps the blood flowing, just keeping us creatively fulfilled. At the end of the day, it's like whatever we do, we're working on something to get better 1% each and every single day. Or
exactly. Yeah.
100%. You never know. Yeah.
And I'm a big fan of falling in love with the process of getting to whatever your
Exactly.
goals are. So for
Yeah.
me, if I want to be on AAA games and on network television shows and in movies and all these types of things that I can see doing for myself, I have to train like that. I can't just expect it to happen for me, right? I mean, you come in with a certain level of talent. Maybe I was a musician for 35 years, so maybe I've got a good ear. I know mic technique. I know how to tell a story and emote without visuals. But there are technicalities and there are different little things, nuance and character development and certain stuff that you have to study and you have to learn. It's not you can watch every movie that's ever been made, every anime that's ever been made, every animation property that's ever been made, every cartoon, every video game, all of that. It's not like meiosis. It's not going to just translate into you, oh, now I can do that thing. No, you might have an idea of what the thing is, and you might have a leg up because you have put in the time and studied and researched and watched and like taken in all that media, but you still have to learn the craft. How do we really actually do it, right? So for me it was a no-brainer. I love to learn, I love to study, I love to grow, I love to see marks of improvement over time. Like I'll sit back and look at certain like say vision boards from 2015 or something like that, and to see like all the stuff that I've accomplished from there forward, and then I would readdress that every so often. It's kind of cool to be able to stop and look back and go, okay, in those times when I'm feeling like I'm not doing enough or I'm not doing anything or no one's like, gravitating to what I'm doing or whatever like that, I just think about what I've done already and what I've already accomplished, and I go, "Oh, okay, calm down. You're being a diva, dude. Just relax, or you're overreacting. Stop it." So
No.
it gets me out of my head a little bit, and it helps me to sit in gratitude. And so I talk about that a lot. It's not something that I practiced before I became a voice actor. Gratitude is something that I've always kind of had, but I didn't know how to implement it in a way that it became like a daily tool for life, right? But people like Steve Bloom and Rob Paulson and Mo LaMarche and these guys that have been mentors, Bob Bergen, these guys that have been mentors to me in this business have showed me that that is the way. And ever since I took that shift, that focus shift, everything has been on an upward trajectory since. And I haven't, sometimes I pinch myself literally because I don't know what I've done to be put in certain positions that I'm in, to have certain um, encounters that I've had, to have people reach out to me in a way or introduce me to someone, or there's just so many stories that I can pinpoint over the past decade of people that have really been like armor for me on my journey, right? So like champions, people that have fought for me, people that have brought me to their agents, people that have brought me to their projects, people that have introduced me to people that I had no business knowing yet, right? And it is humbling. It is humbling, and it reminds you that you're doing something right, first of all, which is nice to feel, because we all have that little imposter syndrome that likes to creep up every now and then, right? And say, "Oh, why are you here?" Like you look around and the whole room is stacked with like AAA talent. Like these guys are every time they open their mouths, it's like magic happens. And then you go, "Oh wait, I was invited here for a reason too." They don't do what I do. I don't do what they do necessarily, and it's that nice mixture and that collaboration with so many people involved that makes the end thing so beautiful. And then if you go into it from the standpoint of I don't want to be the thing. I don't want to be the guy. I just want to be a part of this, and I want to be able to be of service to this thing. If you go in it like that, there's no role that's too small. There's no anything that's like, oh man, there's nothing that you can take from that that's a negative or a disappointment. Even being replaced on, I've been replaced on games, I've been replaced from commercials, I've been replaced in projects, and it hurt like when it happened. But in retrospect, looking back and thinking, I still booked the job. It's still something that can go on my IMDb if it was something that I got through the whole recording process on, right? They didn't replace me before we did the work. So not only did I get my session fee, which I'm grateful for, but I got the experience working with that crew. They hired me for a reason. And even if they moved on from me for whatever reason, it wasn't because I was a jerk and they don't want to work with me. You know what I mean? So it was like, it's still a building block. And everything that we do, every connection we make, every person that we interact with, whether it be a secretary, whether it be an engineer, whether it be a director, whether it be whatever, it's all just adding little tools to the belt. And I love the process of what we do.
Hey, man, brother. I mean, you just pretty much answered a lot of the questions about getting your like. I mean, I'm just saying in general, just really putting in the work and having fun and enjoying the craft and the whole art of gratitude, which is something that a lot of us we kind of sort of take for granted. But when we really get back and think about what it was that we like, look, we do this every day. We get to create and collab with so many different creators, producers, and a lot of different clients, and we get to make all these crazy characters in our little boots and just have just the sheer joy of just getting to, I mean, literally just today, just doing some audiobook stuff or just even auditioning for a couple of like video games and just even getting those is just like I just really don't take it for granted. So it's just the fact that people consider you in mind for a role and then consider you for something later down the line because of something you did. It's like, man, that
Yeah,
what more can
yeah.
I say? It's just
There's
amazing.
nothing quite like it. And there's no other industry that's
Yeah.
quite like this one. I've been in a lot of industries, and this one is pretty special.
Yeah. Because you did mention that you were in the music, you played a lot, you were a musician. So how does that play a huge factor into you being a voiceover artist?
Well, I'm a vocalist, so I'm
Yeah.
an R&B singer. I've been singing music. I've been singing gospel and R&B
Nice.
music for 40 years or longer. And I've been signed to record labels. I've done all that. The thing that it has really helped me the most with that though is twofold. One, I have a musical ear. So if someone wants to give me a quick direction, I can understand the notes of what they're giving me, right? You can tell me, hey, go out to the car, right? And there's notes in there. I'm not, hey, go out to the car. Hey, go out to the car, right? No, they said, hey, go out to the car. So I can repeat the notes if I'm given a line read or something, like we need a quick turn or something. And music is the reason for that. Like I can hear what you say and I can give it back to you exactly in exactly the same pitch, tone, whatever you gave it to me in. So that's been helpful. The other thing that's been like instrumental is the drive that I learned from chasing music, from chasing musical dreams and doors being slammed in my face and performing for free in smoky, disgusting little clubs and just all the time I put in, relationships that fell apart as a result of it. Like there is so much that goes into chasing a dream of music. Um, Now I didn't take the obsession factor that really kind of kept me on the road or kept me away from home or all the negative stuff I left behind, but the drive, the passion, the willingness to do whatever it takes to become great at this thing and whatever that means, whatever that looks like. That I got from music. I got that from chasing music.
Music really does play a huge role into, I mean, not just with audio engineering and, if you're doing covers or anything, but voice acting is also kind of something that I've really noticed recently where when you're fine tuning, like your voice is kind of like an instrument and you're giving characters like, little notes or just tune in pitches, just little tune ups every so often. But yeah, because when you first start out, it might be a little rusty, but then over time, it just really starts growing a lot stronger. And it doesn't really have to necessarily apply to BO, but it could just be for anything, like if you're
Yeah.
cooking, um, or conducting music or dental work, it could just apply to any industry that you go into, not necessarily for acting or voiceover,
Yep.
all that jazz. See what I did there?
Nice. Well played.
Yeah. But yeah, and I was also very, because I know I've seen you around on social media, then you were talking about the gratitude. This actually does go back to Bob Bergen, who was a guest on my show. And we were just kind of discussing about, the importance of, just living out each day or any job that you do. It's kind of like we kind of don't really go into this just to expect to book the job. Like going into this, just having fun, getting up high into the microphone. And I know you probably worked with him, so he probably mentions a lot of that stuff to you as well. But even with Steve Bloom, how both of us are just kind of like active members in his little Bloom Vlogs Facebook group. So definitely little plug in right there. And yeah, it's just very much when you meet people like Steve or Bob or Rob Paulson, Mo, Maurice LaMarche. It's like meeting all these very wonderful, distinct, and crazy, in a good way, crazy personalities of just getting to know their stories of how they broke into the business and just how the love of just the fans and how the characters just really grows into something much more to them and
Yeah.
it really just starts developing some sort of like intimate relationship with the community, just a group of people like you and I have also had our similar backgrounds and journeys of getting listening growing up to these actors and then just really getting to know them more as just the beacons of just really beacons to all of us.
Yeah.
Just just mentors and learning so much about them, and we just apply it to others. Like this is like a generation where it's we grew up with these people and they passed their wisdom down to us, and now we're just sharing it with a newer generation that is coming later down the line. So it's just kind of passing the
as
torch
it
along
as
type
it
of
should
generation
be.
to generation. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
Yeah.
I Let me go back a little bit to what you said. You said a lot there, so there's a lot to
Yeah, I know.
unpack.
I just ramble
Um,
on.
eh, you said you were talking about Bob, and he said what was the he gets a high at the mic. That's why he does.
Yeah.
He doesn't do it for the fame. He doesn't do it for the money. He does it because he gets a high at the microphone. The studio is my safe space. This is
Yeah.
where I go to play. This is where I go to unwind. This is where I go to uh, let out any emotion that I've got trapped in me.
Mm,
I love it in here. Um, this is my safe space. And yes, I do get a high at the mic because I enjoy bringing characters to life,
same here.
right?
Yeah.
Um, it is uh, it is an honor and a privilege to be even on this path. And then you talk about Steve. When I'll tell you my origin story. I was I was struggling with music, and I my album wasn't selling the way I wanted it to or hoped it would, and I was kind of depressed. I was down and out. I didn't have an artistic outlet. I wasn't doing a play at the time. I wasn't working on new music at the time. So I saw this pattern online for a company called Ares Armory, and it was a Batman design for a cosplay costume. And I was like, I never did anything like that. That should be interesting. Let me try that. Now, if it wasn't for me being in a rut artistically, I never would have even attempted this. But to this day, I've got a really cool Batman costume that's hanging in the other room. Let me see if I can show you.
Yo, look at that. Check
So
this out.
so
Yeah.
that's part of my
How about
Masters of the
that?
Universe collection, and then my monitors and my keyboard. But this Batman costume I made by hand, and it's a full costume from head to toe. Um, and it's the first and only time I've ever done anything like that. And it's probably the last time I will have done anything like that. But as you can see, I still hang it, and I've owned that thing for well over a decade, like 15 years, I think now. I've worn it as a Halloween costume. I mean, I've had fun in it. I've gone to cons in it. That I will never do again because it's not very comfortable to wear a bunch of styrofoam to con. But I digress. It was fun at the time. But my point is, I needed some kind of an artistic outlet, and that gave me a canvas in which to paint. I got done with that, and I was still kind of in a rut. Music still wasn't doing what I wanted it to do. Some of the things that I was working on had fallen through, and my wife suggested voice acting, and I had never even thought about it before, never even considered it. Granted, I've played video games my whole life. I've watched animation my whole life. Clearly, I'm a fan of Masters of the Universe. I've been watching cartoons since at least '83, right? So, but longer. But you know for a fact because of my obsession with Masters that I've been watching at least for that long. Um, and I never gave any thought. So I went down the Google rabbit hole of how to become a voice actor and what does voice acting entail. And the very first thing that I found was VO Buzz Weekly with Chuck Duran. And so I started going down the Chuck Duran rabbit hole. I was watching all the VO Buzz Weekly videos on YouTube. There's over 500 now, with just an arsenal of a master class of nuggets from all the best of the best in this business. So I watched that and I paid really close attention to it, and I studied it and I rewatched and I kind of just, you know, digested it over and over. And I started responding to the videos online. And with my comments and my responses, I started a rapport with Chuck. And then Chuck and I became friends and we would communicate. And then Chuck became my first mentor in this business. Also from VO Buzz Weekly, and Chuck is there's no one quite like him that I've ever met. He's wonderful. he helped me tune my sound so that my studio was putting out the right quality sound that I needed. He helped me adjust my amp and everything like that. And back in the day, I had a strip thing that I was using, a wind tube something or other. But I don't use that anymore. I just use the Apollo. But my point is, like, he was so willing to help somebody that he really didn't know from Adam, which is what speaks so highly of him and his character. And we've become good friends. And he was my first mentor. Also from VO Buzz Weekly is where I saw the first time I ever heard of Steve Bloom. And so I saw Steve on an episode on there. I said, ooh, he's got a deep voice like me. Let me see if he's doing classes. Okay. And that was before he actually started. So I was part of that inaugural uh, group of students that that joined up with Steve. And I've been one ever since, and I'm never going anywhere because Steve Bloom literally changed my life. Like, literally, from showing me how to do what we do to introductions to just life lessons as a man. Like, I can't say enough good things about him or Rob Paulson. I talk about these guys a lot because that's how much they mean to me. I went to an Emerald City Comic Con, and I live in Seattle area. I went to an Emerald City Comic Con. I think it was in I want to say 2018 or 2019. I don't remember which one it was, but Steve was there with a panel of other guys promoting Star Wars. It was, I think, D. Bradley Baker was there, and James Arnold Taylor, and no, maybe it wasn't James. I think it was maybe Taylor Gray. I don't remember who the other person was, though. It wasn't Sam Witwer. I would have remembered that for sure. But anyway, it was a Star Wars panel. And how at cons, when they're ready for Q&A, then the lines fill up in between the seats and people line up at the microphones to ask questions. I got up to the front. I waved. Steve goes, Heath. He goes, hey, you guys remember his name? And he said my name to an auditorium of like 7,500 people. And I like got choked up in that moment. And usually, and it's the same for the Bloomvox studio classes, I don't ask questions. I'm not in the Q&A. And there's a reason for that. One, I want everyone to get their chance to get their questions asked, because any question I have will be like tax related or, like, I don't know, stuff that other people might not be interested in knowing the answer to. Or I'll ask a question that I already know the answer to if I think that the class will get value out of it. It's kind of how I do at workshops and how I do in group setting classes in general. But the kindness that he showed to me, and it wasn't that con, but a couple of cons later, I was in line. I was going up there Rob Paulson and I had been friends online for a while, but I had never met him. And he came out to Seattle for a con. I went out to see him, and I brought my son was 12 at the time. He's 16 now. I brought my son out to meet him, and he called me out of the line. Like, he saw me walk in with my son. There's a huge line. He called me to the front of the line. I'm like apologizing to people as I'm walking up in front of him. He gives me a huge hug, and we have this nice, intimate conversation. He says some things to my son that will forever live in my heart, forever and ever and ever, and no one can ever have it. Like, it's mine, like, forever. And he showed me who he was that day. And that very same moment, right after that happens, I hear a "Hey, Heath" coming from behind me, and I turn around, and Maurice LaMarche is calling me over to his table. And Maurice and I had been friends online as well, and we had never met in person. So this was a lot of, and it was so cool because I had my son, and I could be like, you know who this is, And then, he wouldn't necessarily know who they were until they did like Cowabunga Dude or Animaniacs or whatever they would do, Pinky and the Brain, whatever they would do, and my son would be like, and then he realized who they were, right? And so it was really special for me for a lot of reasons. One, it was a recognition that I belonged. Yeah. If someone of that caliber, first of all, if someone of that caliber takes you to their agent and says, hey, check out this guy, he's pretty special, that's something to hold on to for your whole career. That's a driving force. That's a a fuel to that's fuel to the fire. And then every time you feel like, oh man, this is really hard, then you go, oh, but a lot of these really like special people believe in you, so you better quit acting like it's hard and get going, right? So it's just a motivational thing, and it's like I said earlier, it is literally champions that have believed in me. And Vanessa Marshall introduced me to her management company. There's just been so many instances. Mike Vaughn brought me to Dean Panero. There have been so many instances of people that have just believed in me for one reason or another. I don't know what I did to get them to believe in me. I don't know uh what thing it was. It wasn't like I was putting out projects and they could hear my work. You know what I mean? I couldn't afford demos at the time. Nothing was really, I couldn't like show you like what I'm capable of unless we were in a class together or something. And then you're like, oh shit, that dude's pretty good. Hey, I don't have to do the deep voice thing, do I? Because when the deep voice guy goes, everyone thinks, "Oh, I got to put on this deep voice." No, you don't got to do that. Be yourself, right? Steve teaches us our own voices are unique, and it was something that took me a long time to figure out. And another thing that took me a long time to figure out was getting out of my own way, because my voice is so big. My personality is so big and wild. Like if I'm not boom, 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 going, I feel like I'm doing it wrong. So for me, finding subtlety, finding power in like villainous characters that was more understated and reserved was a game changer. Like it used to be, oh, I'm this big guy, got this big voice. And then it became this guy where all he had to do was talk like this, and it's very freaky. Like it's just like this total change of this pivot of process, of thought process. Right? It was okay. I gotta use this big instrument that I was given. No, you don't. No, you don't. You have to find the nuance, and these guys have all been instrumental in helping me discover those things.
Yeah. I have some anecdotes to share about. Okay, so when you mentioned Steve Bloom, I literally just remembered that he was at a convention a few weeks, like it was last weekend at a LA convention center called Collecticon, which I just went to. So I was gonna say hi and finally meet him, but his line was just so long, and I'm just like, uh, maybe another time, but I was just like, because I was already running around to say hi to all of these actors that I grew up on. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I met Jim Cummings for the first time, which is
Yeah, he's great.
unbelievable, and Yuri Lowenthal and Tara Platt, and I actually got their signatures of it's their voiceover voice actor book, like the original edition that I have,
Mm-hmm.
just sitting over there. I wish I could show it to you, but
No, I know the book. I
yeah,
have it too. It's a good
yeah,
book.
so I
Great
got their
book, actually.
signature. So, Yuri, thank you so much for giving that signature, even it
Shout
was
out
free.
Dean
So,
Panero Talent. Both of them
yeah,
are on the same roster with me over there at Dean Panero in LA. Love those guys. I don't know
awesome.
them. I don't know them personally, but I am a huge fan of everything that what
Yeah,
they do and what they stand for.
yeah. And shout out to Charles Martinet, who is just absolutely just a very, very, very great guy. So, yeah, thank you, Charles, for the that we finally crossed paths, and so many others that I want to give a shout out to. But yeah, I just wanted to say right now.
Mario for those of you that are paying
I mean,
attention in the group there.
who wouldn't know who Charles Martinet is? I mean, unless if you don't
Hey,
play
unless you
Mario, but yeah.
pursue this, you might not know. Let's be honest. I didn't know names.
Yeah.
I'll tell you the names I knew before I became a voice actor was I knew who Phil Lamar was because I was a big fan of Mad TV.
Oh my
Um,
God. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I knew who Peter Cullen was. I knew who
Hmm.
Frank Welker was,
Yeah.
and I knew who Mel Blanc was. That was it. Those are the
Oh
only
yeah.
voice actors that I knew for sure. Those guys are voice
I mean,
actors.
yeah, Mel Blanc. I mean, I was just doing an interview with somebody else just not too long ago. We were just discussing like cartoons, Looney Tunes, and I think Mel was kind of like my introduction to voice acting. And then that's how I kind of got started online, with all these communities like Newgrounds, and it's a couple of other ones where I mean, social media is kind of like another great way to get your start. But I know people that have been into the business that kind of were doing it like in studios, like Nickelodeon, Cartoon Network, the Salami Studio.
Mhm.
Yeah, just pretty much a lot of those recording companies. But I know that right now we're starting to go in person to stuff like that again. So who knows what's going to happen in the future? And I really would love to do like a follow up to this in the near future. But yeah, thank you so much, Heath, for sharing
Of course.
just your love of the craft and so much that you just talking about all how all these people just inspired you and even showing us a little bit of like just how to make a unique villain just a
Yeah,
little of that showcase of that. So all of our voices are unique, we have something to offer. So yeah, just my last bit of advice, just do it. I know it's very basic, but
that's
it's
it.
so
You're not
true.
going to
Just
know
do
if you
it.
don't jump in and
Yeah,
try. Like everyone,
exactly.
everyone has the ability to do it, but does everyone have the drive to do what it takes
For
to
sure.
last?
Yeah,
It's not about coming in and finding instant success because no one
yeah.
really does that except maybe Bowser, but he was already an
Oh,
animator
Eric
before he
Bells.
became a voice.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
but
yeah,
I mean that's the exception to the rule, right? Most of us
yeah,
have to work our butts off, you know,
yeah,
prove our mettle over and over again, get into classes with casting directors, show them who you are so they can be on the lookout for you, get with good agents so that you can have access to the good quality material, right?
yeah.
There's a process to it. And
Yeah.
it's not for the weak of heart, but anyone can do it if they put their mind to it.
Yeah. And on that note, that concludes this interview. So where can people check out your stuff, man?
I'm at Heath Martin VO everywhere. So on all the socials, my website, all of it, it's all at Heath Martin VO.
Yep, right on, brother. And I'll also put in all my socials in the comment description, wherever. But thank you so much for watching. Stick around next time on Station Square. And who knows, if we do a follow-up, just watch, subscribe, and all that YouTube stuff. And until then, catch you
Just
later, and
do
I'll
it.
see y'all.
Do it
Yep,
now.
just do it! All right, y'all. Take care. Bye. Have a good one.